Cosby made a motion to stay our entire case from moving forward this morning, and that's why we were in court with Judge Carlin. In other words, Mr. Cosby was seeking a draconian remedy to completely shut down our case from being able to move forward. He was not successful in his motion to stay, freeze, what I'll call shut down our case until the resolution of the criminal case. We are permitted to move forward with third-party discovery, depositions. So, for example, I noted in court that we have noticed Hugh Hefner's deposition in this case because our allegation is that our client Judy Huth was 15 years old when she became the victim of sexual misconduct by Mr. Cosby at the Playboy Mansion. That is what is alleged in her lawsuit. And so we have noticed Mr. Hefner's deposition for April. And now that we know that we can proceed, we will be in touch with Mr. Hefner's counsel as to the exact date when Mr. Hefner's deposition will be taken. We'd like to take it as soon as possible since, as I noted, he's going to be 90 years old next week. We have noticed it for a specific date, but I'm not going to reveal what that date is right now. I would like to confirm with Mr. Hefner's counsel. We have also noticed the deposition of Renita Hill for April 8th. The court is allowing us to proceed with that deposition next week. Ms. Hill has spoken out publicly about what her allegations are against Mr. Cosby. And so I have no comment about what her allegations are, but simply that we will be taking her deposition next week. I think the judge has carefully tried to balance the interests of our clients receiving a fair trial in a timely way with Mr. Cosby's right to proceed in his criminal case in a way that he is not prejudiced. So the court is trying to balance all of those rights. We are not going to be taking Mr. Cosby's second deposition next week. But the court has indicated more than once this morning that the court has a concern about our case not having to wait to be tried until the complete resolution of the criminal case now pending in Pennsylvania, because we have no idea. That case could go on for years. We have no idea. Nobody does at this point. All we know right now is it stayed because the higher court is reviewing the Court of Common Pleas decision to not dismiss the case and allow the criminal case to proceed. So, again, the court's indicating that potentially it would like our case, Judy Huth's case, to be tried in 2017 at least. And so, in reference to Mr. Cosby's second deposition, which we would like to take, while we are not going to be able to proceed with that next week, the court is indicating that we can come back to court at another point and seek to take it at another time. It really depends on what is happening in the criminal case. And so we'll monitor that and do as the court instructed. Bottom line is we're very happy with this decision that we can proceed with discovery in this case. And we're looking forward to doing that.
But do you feel in any way it was some sort of setback? I mean, trying to, depose Mr. Cosby for a second time?
I don't see it as a setback because we will be able to depose Mr. Cosby. He is still ordered by the court to appear for his second deposition. It's only a question of when we are going to be able to take that second deposition. I mean, the court's feeling that and indicating in its tentative ruling that, you know, if he appeared and invoked his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination because he may have a concern that whatever he says may tend to incriminate him, that somehow there may be an adverse inference against him if he does that. And if he doesn't do that and then just testifies, that his testimony then could be used in the criminal case. And so that's the concern. He's trying to protect Mr. Cosby's rights, but he's also trying to protect our client's rights, which is why he didn't go for the draconian remedy that Mr. Cosby was seeking to stop us from proceeding. So we will be proceeding. And in addition to the depositions, we have been doing other discovery, which we can't disclose, but we're moving ahead.
When do you hope to be back in court to seek that second deposition?
Well, we will be back in court not to seek the second deposition, but on a demur in this case on April 14th. Again, Mr. Cosby's doing everything possible to shut down our case. It's April 14th. It's on a demur. You want to talk about that, John?
Sure. A demur is a legal challenge to
Here.
the sufficiency of allegations in the complaint. And a demur asserts that based on the facts in the complaint, the case should be thrown out. And we're going to be opposing that, and I think we're going to be prevailing.
So it's basically the same thing all over again that you're going to have to argue?
Not exactly, but
Similar, right? He's trying to
it's on the pleadings, yes. We are jumping through many, many hurdles. So far, we have jumped through all of them, and we continue to, be very nimble and move ahead,
So when you talk
despite all obstacles being thrown in our path.
when you talk about the demur being the legal challenges is it to the actual charges?
It's to the sufficiency of the complaint in this case, in other words, to the sufficiency of the lawsuit that is currently before the court, in this case of Judy Huth versus Mr. Cosby. In other words, as to what is alleged in that complaint, actually second amended complaint,
Right.
that's on file.
What do you want to ask you?
Well, we never will say what we would like to ask any witness who is going to be appearing in a deposition, and that would include Mr. Hefner. But we definitely think that his deposition is relevant in this case.
Do you expect or would you seek to depose other accusers?
Pardon me?
Other accusers, would you seek to depose them down the line?
Well, we have taken the deposition of one third-party witness so far, another person who has made allegations against Mr. Cosby, but who has not been public about her allegations. And so we are not disclosing her name. We are not disclosing what she testified to in that deposition, which we did take. But we took it because we believed that it was important evidence that would be helpful to our client in this case. So I just, in the interest of her privacy, I won't disclose that, but we proceeded with that deposition.
And then the protective order that you guys were talking about, that just basically is saying, just like all the other stuff with Cosby's first deposition, that none of it can be made public.
Well, the discussion this morning about the protective order had to do with whether depositions of third parties, in other words, not Ms. Huth, not Mr. Cosby, could be made public after they were taken, whether the transcripts of those depositions could be made public. And there was also discussion of whether the witnesses whose deposition was taken could comment about what they testified to, even if they could not release, or we could not release, the deposition. The court appeared to indicate that the deposition itself could not be released But if the parties want to comment, they have their right of free speech, and they can do so. Is that right?
Yeah, the only thing that cannot be released are the contents of the actual depositions
Right.
themselves. But all parties retain their First Amendment rights.
They could characterize what they said.
They can speak and say what they wish to speak about, but they just can't release, nor can we release, the actual transcript of their testimony under oath at the deposition.
Are you able to ask Mr. Cosby's camp for production of documents, or even that would be on hold?
All discovery as to the parties themselves is on hold. We can obtain documents from third parties. His wife. The only thing I can say is Mrs. Cosby is not a party, and that will play out how it will play out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Given Mr. Hefner's very close relationship over a long period of time with Mr. Cosby, has he been cooperative with coming forward, given that you look to depose him, or is he trying the same kind of delayed tactics?
I'll just say that we have been in contact with Mr. Hefner's counsel. I don't want to comment on whether Mr. Hefner, through his counsel, has been cooperative or not. But at this point, we're going to move ahead.
Do you believe you have knowledge of what happened that night or that day, or is this just more general?
I know. We're not able to comment on anything that we intend to ask Mr. Hefner, nor anything that we think that Mr. Hefner may know or not know. We're just going to proceed to take Mr. Hefner's deposition, and then he can testify in answer to our questions and testify truthfully, and that's all that we ask.
What's different about this lawsuit against Mr. Cosby relative to the other lawsuits?
Well, as far as I know, we're the only lawsuit that's not a defamation lawsuit. We are actually going right to the heart of, did Mr. Cosby do what Ms. Huth alleges, or did he not do it? And ours, as I said, I believe, is the only lawsuit alleging child sexual abuse. That is, it's the only lawsuit now pending.
Is there one in Canada?
I'm not aware of any others, but pending that allege child sexual abuse. If you know of one, please feel free to let me know.
Sexual assault or anything?
Pardon me?
Or sexual assault or been involved or anything?
I mean, I don't know. The only lawsuits I'm aware of have to do with defamation. The one in Massachusetts, the one here in Southern California. And I'm not aware of any other lawsuits that are pending. Maybe there are two in Massachusetts.
Gloria, quick question. I mean, if he feels in any way that he could self-incriminate himself.
I'm sorry, I can't hear your question.
If he believes in any way that he could self-incriminate himself,
Well, I mean, he in any civil lawsuit, if Mr. Cosby has reason to believe that his testimony might tend to incriminate him, he can invoke his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. I'm not prepared to say what he said in that October deposition, which we took, because that's the subject of a protective order.
It sounds like the judge wants this to go to trial next year. Does that also your...
Well, we would like to move ahead and have it go to trial next year, absolutely. And by the way, I don't think that this case, Ms. Huth's case, depends on whether Mr. Cosby decides that he's going to deny the charges, or that is the claim of Ms. Huth. I mean, there's other evidence that we are seeking other than whatever Mr. Cosby's position will be, whatever he testifies to or doesn't testify to. This is not going to be a case of she said, he said. We're discovering more information, more evidence. And I'm sure that Mr. Cosby will do what he can do to discover what he can discover. He's, got 700 attorneys, literally, at Quinn and Emanuel. He's got hundreds of millions of dollars to spend to try to defeat the claim of this one woman, Judy Huth, who has a serious allegation against him, and I'm sure he's going to do everything he can to provide a vigorous defense. That's fine. Okay.